Hello, everyone, and welcome to day 27 of our Read Through the Bible Challenge. I'm so glad you're joining me today as we continue our journey through the scriptures. Today, we'll be reading from the book of Exodus, chapters 13, 14, and 15, followed by Matthew 19, verses 1 to 15 from the Amplified Bible. Let's dive in. Exodus 13. Consecration of the firstborn. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Sanctify to me," that is, set apart for my purpose, "every firstborn, the first offspring of every womb among the children of Israel, both of man and of animal. It is mine." Moses said to the people, "Remember, solemnly observe and commemorate this day on which you came out of Egypt, out of the house of bondage and slavery, for by a strong and powerful hand the Lord brought you out of this place. And nothing leavened shall be eaten. On this day in the month Abib, you are about to go onward. And it shall be when the Lord brings you into the land of the Canaanite, the Hittite, the Amorite, the Hivite, and the Jebusite, which he swore to your fathers to give you, a land of abundance flowing with milk and honey, that you shall keep and observe this rite, service, in this month. For 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread, and on the seventh day there shall be a feast to the Lord. Unleavened bread shall be eaten throughout the 7 days. No leavened bread shall be seen with you, nor shall there be leaven within the borders of your territory. You shall explain this to your son on that day, saying, 'It is because of what the Lord did for me when I came out of Egypt.' It shall serve as a sign to you on your hand, arm, and as a reminder on your forehead, so that the instruction, law, of the Lord may be in your mouth. For with a strong and powerful hand the Lord brought you out of Egypt. Therefore, you shall keep this ordinance at this time from year to year. Now it shall be when the Lord brings you into the land of the Canaanite, as he swore to you and your fathers, and gives it to you, you shall set apart and dedicate to the Lord all that first opens the womb. All the firstborn males of your livestock shall be the Lord's. Every firstborn of a donkey you shall redeem by substituting a lamb as a sacrifice for it. But if you do not wish to redeem it, then you shall break its neck. And every firstborn among your sons you shall redeem, that is, buy back from God with a suitable sacrifice. And it shall be when your son asks you in time to come, saying, 'What does this mean?' you shall say to him, 'With a strong and powerful hand the Lord brought us out of Egypt, from the house of bondage and slavery.' For it happened, when Pharaoh stubbornly refused to let us go, that the Lord struck every firstborn in the land of Egypt, both the firstborn of man and the firstborn of animal. Therefore, I sacrifice to the Lord all the males, the first to be born of every womb, but every firstborn of my sons I redeem. So it shall serve as a sign and a reminder on your left hand, arm, and as frontlets between your eyes, for by a strong and powerful hand the Lord brought us out of Egypt." God leads the people. So it happened, when Pharaoh let the people go, God did not lead them by way of the land of the Philistines, even though it was nearer. For God said, the people might change their minds when they see war, that is, that there will be war, and return to Egypt. But God led the people around by the way of the wilderness toward the Red Sea. The sons of Israel went up in battle array, orderly ranks, marching formation, out of the land of Egypt. Moses took the bones of Joseph with him, for Joseph had solemnly ordered, placed under an oath, the Israelites, saying, "God will assuredly take care of you, and you must carry my bones away from here with you." They journeyed from Sukkot in Goshen and camped at Etham on the edge of the wilderness. The presence of the Lord was going before them by day in a pillar, column, of cloud to lead them along the way, and in a pillar of fire by night to give them light, so that they could travel by day and by night. He did not withdraw the pillar of cloud by day, nor the pillar of fire by night, from going before the people. Exodus 14. Pharaoh in pursuit. Now the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Tell the sons of Israel to turn back and camp in front of Pi-hahiroth, between Migdol and the sea. You shall camp in front of Baal-zephon, opposite it, by the sea. For Pharaoh will say of the Israelites, 'They are wandering aimlessly in the land. The wilderness has shut them in. I will harden, make stubborn, defiant Pharaoh's heart, so that he will pursue them, and I will be glorified and honored through Pharaoh and all his army, and the Egyptians shall know without any doubt, and acknowledge that I am the Lord." And they did so. When the king of Egypt was told that the people had fled, Pharaoh and his servants had a change of heart toward the people, and they said, "What is this that we have done? We have let Israel go from serving us." So Pharaoh harnessed horses to his war chariots for battle and took his army with him. And he took 600 chosen war chariots and all the other war chariots of Egypt with fighting charioteers over all of them. The Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and he pursued the Israelites as they were leaving confidently and defiantly. The Egyptians chased them with all the horses and war chariots of Pharaoh, his horsemen and his army, and they overtook them as they camped by the sea, beside Pi-Hahiroth, in front of Baal-zephon. As Pharaoh approached, the Israelites looked up and saw the Egyptians marching after them, and they were very frightened. So the Israelites cried out to the Lord. Then they said to Moses, "Is it because there are no graves in Egypt that you have taken us away to die in the wilderness? What is this that you have done to us by bringing us out of Egypt? Did we not say to you in Egypt, 'Leave us alone. Let us serve the Egyptians'? For it would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians as slaves than to die in the wilderness. The sea is divided." Then Moses said to the people, "Do not be afraid. Take your stand, be firm and confident and undismayed, and see the salvation of the Lord which he will accomplish for you today. For those Egyptians whom you have seen today, you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you while you only need to keep silent and remain calm." The Lord said to Moses, "Why do you cry to me? Tell the sons of Israel to move forward toward the sea. As for you, lift up your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea and divide it, so that the sons of Israel may go through the middle of the sea on dry land. As for me, hear this. I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians, and they will go in the sea after them, and I will be glorified and honored through Pharaoh and all his army, and his war chariots and his horsemen. And the Egyptians shall know, without any doubt, and acknowledge that I am the Lord, when I am glorified and honored through Pharaoh, through his war chariots and his charioteers." The angel of God, who had been going in front of the camp of Israel, moved and went behind them. The pillar of the cloud moved from in front and stood behind them. So it came between the camp of Egypt and the camp of Israel. It was a cloud along with darkness, even by day to the Egyptians, but it gave light by night to the Israelites. So one army did not come near the other all night. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord swept the sea back by a strong east wind all that night, and turned the seabed into dry land, and the waters were divided. The Israelites went into the middle of the sea on dry land, and the waters formed a wall to them on their right hand and on their left. Then the Egyptians pursued them into the middle of the sea, even all Pharaoh's horses, his war chariots, and his charioteers. So it happened at the early morning watch before dawn, that the Lord looked down on the army of the Egyptians through the pillar of fire and cloud and put them in a state of confusion. He made their chariot wheels hard to turn and the chariots difficult to drive. So the Egyptians said, "Let us flee from Israel, for the Lord is fighting for them against the Egyptians." Then the Lord said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the sea, so that the waters may come back over the Egyptians, on their war chariots and their charioteers." So Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the sea returned to its normal flow at sunrise, and the Egyptians retreated right into it, being met by the returning water. So the Lord overthrew the Egyptians and tossed them into the midst of the sea. The waters returned and covered the chariots and the charioteers, and all the army of Pharaoh that had gone into the sea after them. Not even one of them survived. But the Israelites walked on dry land in the middle of the sea, and the waters formed a wall to them on their right hand and on their left. The Lord saved Israel that day from the hand of the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians lying dead on the seashore. When Israel saw the great power which the Lord had used against the Egyptians, they feared the Lord with reverence and awe-filled respect, and they believed in the Lord and in his servant Moses. Exodus 15. The Song of Moses and Israel. Then Moses and the children of Israel sang this song to the Lord, singing, "I will sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously. The horse and its rider he has thrown into the sea. The Lord is my strength and my song. and he has become my salvation. This is my God, and I will praise him, my father's God, and I will exalt him. The Lord is a warrior. The Lord is his name. Pharaoh's chariots and his army he has thrown into the sea. His chosen captains are drowned in the Red Sea. The deep water covers them. Clad in armor, they sank into the depths like a stone. Your right hand, O Lord, is glorious in power. Your right hand, O Lord, shatters the enemy. In the greatness of your majesty you overthrow and annihilate those adversaries who rise in rebellion against you. You send out your fury, and it consumes them like chaff. With the blast of your nostrils the waters piled up. The flowing waters stood up like a mound. The deeps were congealed in the heart of the sea. The enemy said, I will pursue, I will overtake, I will divide the spoil. My desire shall be satisfied against them. I will draw my sword. My hand shall dispossess them and drive them out. You blew with your wind. The sea covered them. Clad in armor, they sank like lead in the mighty waters. Who is like you among the gods, O Lord? Who is like you, majestic in holiness, awesome in splendor, working wonders? You stretched out your right hand. The sea swallowed them. You, in your loving kindness and goodness, have led the people whom you have redeemed. In your strength you have guided them with care to your holy habitation. The peoples have heard about you, they tremble. Anguish and fear has gripped the inhabitants of Philistia. Then the tribal chiefs of Edom were dismayed and horrified. The mighty leaders of Moab, trembling grips them. All the inhabitants of Canaan have melted away in despair. Terror and dread fall on them. Because of the greatness of your arm they are as still as a stone. Until your people pass by and into Canaan, O Lord, until the people pass by whom you have purchased. You will bring them into the land of promise and plant them on the mountain, empty Moriah in Jerusalem, of your inheritance. The place, O Lord, you have made for your dwelling among them, the sanctuary, O Lord, which your hands have established. The Lord shall reign to eternity and beyond. For the horses of Pharaoh went with his war chariots and his charioteers into the sea, and the Lord brought back the waters of the sea on them. But the sons of Israel walked on dry land in the middle of the sea. Then Miriam the prophetess, the sister of Aaron and Moses, took a timbrel in her hand, and all the women followed her with timbrels and dancing. Miriam answered them, Sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously and is highly exalted. The horse and its rider he has hurled into the sea. The Lord provides water. Then Moses led Israel from the Red Sea, and they went into the wilderness of Shur. They went a distance of 3 days, about 33 miles, in the wilderness and found no water. Then they came to Marah, but they could not drink its waters because they were bitter. Therefore it was named Marah, bitter. The people grew discontented and grumbled at Moses, saying, What are we going to drink? Then he cried to the Lord for help, and the Lord showed him a tree, a branch of which he threw into the waters, and the waters became sweet. There the Lord made a statute and an ordinance for them, and there he tested them, saying, If you will diligently listen and pay attention to the voice of the Lord your God, and do what is right in his sight, and listen to his commandments, and keep foremost in your thoughts and actively obey all his precepts and statutes, then I will not put on you any of the diseases which I have put on the Egyptians, for I am the Lord who heals you. Then the children of Israel came to Elim, where there were 12 springs of water and 70 date palms, and they camped there beside the waters. Matthew 19. Concerning divorce. Now when Jesus had finished saying these things, he left Galilee and went into the part of Judea that is beyond the Jordan, and large crowds followed him, and he healed them there. And Pharisees came to Jesus, testing him and asking, Is it lawful for a man to divorce his wife for just any reason? He replied, Have you never read that he who created them from the beginning made them male and female, and said, For this reason a man shall leave his father and mother, and shall be joined inseparably to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh? So they are no longer two, but one flesh. Therefore, what God has joined together, let no one separate. The Pharisees said to him, Why then did Moses command us to give her a certificate of divorce and send her away? He said to them, "Because your hearts were hard and stubborn, Moses permitted you to divorce your wives. But from the beginning it has not been this way. I say to you, whoever divorces his wife, except for sexual immorality, and marries another woman commits adultery." The disciples said to Jesus, "If the relationship of a man with his wife is like this, it is better not to marry." But he said to them, "Not all men can accept this statement, but only those to whom the capacity to receive it has been given. For there are eunuchs who have been born that way from their mother's womb, making them incapable of consummating a marriage, and there are eunuchs who have been made eunuchs by men for royal service, and there are eunuchs who have made themselves so for the sake of the kingdom of heaven. He who is able to accept this, let him accept it." Jesus blesses little children. Then children were brought to Jesus so that he might place his hands on them for a blessing and pray, but the disciples reprimanded them. But he said, "Leave the children alone, and do not forbid them from coming to me, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these." After placing his hands on them for a blessing, he went on from there.